From going to jail to becoming one of the most successful actors in Hollywood, all you have to do is say Iron Man and you already know who I'm talking about. But who is Robert Downey Jr. behind the camera, and what is his life story? Early life. Robert Downey Jr. was born in New York in the United States on April the 4th of 1965. His family was artistic and his home was in the then bohemian neighborhood of Greenwich Village in New York City. His father was a well-respected filmmaker in the underground scene back then, and this is how a 5-year-old Robert had his first part in a movie. The family moved around on the account of his father's work, so as a child he lived in New York, Woodstock, London, New Mexico, Connecticut, and California, and his childhood would be unusual, where he was exposed to many things that went on to influence his life and future career. He and his father have talked openly about the fact that Robert was given illegal substances by his father when he was just 8 years old, and he was surrounded by people who had addiction issues his whole young life. When his parents were divorced, Robert then moved briefly to LA, but dropped out of high school and returned to the East Coast, where at the age of 17, he began to take the first steps in his acting career. During this time, as he took auditions and tried to get by, he worked clearing tables in a restaurant and as an assistant in a shoe store, and also as living art in a nightclub. He had some minor roles in stage plays and off-Broadway shows, and his first movie role came in 1983's Baby It's You, but his scenes never made it into the final cut. Career breakthrough and difficult times. Although Saturday Night Live had been launching the careers of many Hollywood stars in the early 1980s, when it came to Robert Downey Jr., things were slightly different. He arrived at SNL when he was already getting a name for himself as a comedy actor, but when he appeared on the show as a regular, he turned out to be strangely unpopular. He didn't enjoy doing impressions, and his talents were much better suited for deeper character study and more long-term projects. The SNL quick-fire stand-up style of sketches simply did not suit him, and when he was later asked about why he was fired from the show, he admitted that he lacked experience in improv and didn't enjoy it. The viewers felt the same, and the 8th series was seen as the worst ever, as RDJ played characters that failed to connect with the audience. Even after this somewhat embarrassing experience, he managed to avoid many negative consequences for his career. He became an unofficial member of the so-called Brat Pack, which was a bunch of young actors who regularly appeared in teen types coming-of-age movies in the 1980s. The members included Emilio Estevez, Rob Lowe, Judd Nelson, Demi Moore, and Molly Ringwald, amongst others. Although not fully part of the group, he appeared in the iconic movies Weird Science in 1985, The Pickup Artist in 1987, and then in a role that was to define his early career breakout, Less Than Zero, alongside other Brat Pack members. He worked continuously after this role, but it was in 1992 that Robert Downey Jr.'s star really began to shine and light up Hollywood. He starred in the title role of the biopic Chaplin, directed by the legendary Richard Attenborough. His work in the film would be widely lauded, and he received an Academy Award nomination for Best Actor. He then took on roles in Natural Born Killers and Restoration in '94 and '95, and although these parts were critically well received, his life on the other side of the camera became a mess. Unfortunately, that era was marred by heavy substance abuse and major addiction problems that ended up in trouble with the law, and ultimately, Robert was arrested for the last time in '99 and sentenced to 3 years in prison for a parole violation. He went to prison in a high-profile scandal but was released early and ended up landing a role in the TV series Ally McBeal. That's where he ended up receiving a Golden Globe for his work, but despite the fact that his career was in decent shape, he was still struggling with addiction issues and was again in trouble with the law. By 2003, life was looking up for Robert Downey Jr., and he landed a bunch of roles in films that seemed to give him the opportunity to move forward and make a success out of things. He starred in The Singing Detective in 2003, Good Night and Good Luck in 2005, and Zodiac in 2007. But this apparent success would be nothing compared to what was on the horizon. Iron Man and beyond. It was in 2008 that Robert Downey Jr.'s career took its most enormous upwards turn. This is the year that he took on the role of Tony Stark in the movie Iron Man. He took the character of the billionaire inventor and his alter ego, the superhero Iron Man, and made a charming and complex character who has inspired people all over the world. His portrayal of the character had somehow managed to be sensitive and relatable and still embody the superhero, and it's a really hard thing to do, and very few actors actors ever truly fill the larger-than-life boots of the comic book heroes in such iconic and universally appealing ways. However, Robert Downey Jr. did just that. In that same year, he appeared in Tropic Thunder, which received great reviews, and was nominated for an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor. He was then Sherlock Holmes in the Guy Ritchie-directed box office smash, bagging himself a Golden Globe for his portrayal of the detective, one of my favorite movies ever. After this string of hits, he then reprised the superhero suit for 2 Iron Man sequels and multiple more appearances as Tony Stark in the seemingly endless Marvel Universe movies that followed. He's one of the highest-grossing actors of all time and has starred in movies that have, so far, made over $14 billion across the globe. Most of this, of course, comes from Marvel movies. The only trouble that he's encountered with all of the Iron Man success is that his criminal record can make international travel for promotions just a bit tricky. It turns out that some countries like Japan don't allow people with certain past histories in so easily. In 2020, he suffered what could be seen as a temporary blip in his meteoric rise when he starred in Dolittle as Dr. Dolittle, the Man Who Can Talk to Animals. This film was met with critical reviews and suffered at the box office, and there was a rather awkward global issue at that moment in time that made box office success a lot less easy. But the movie theaters were hardly what could be called stuffed, full of eager patrons for any releases. Awards. That slight setback was barely noticed, though, when in 2023, he returned to winning form in his portrayal of the American government official Louis Strauss in director Christopher Nolan's extraordinary biopic Oppenheimer. In fact, this is the moment that Robert Downey Jr. finally won that long-awaited Oscar, receiving the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor, and his excellent acting also swept up a Golden Globe, the BAFTA, and a Screen Actors Guild Award for the same category. Finally, given the tangible recognition that such a remarkable career deserved, he made a speech on collecting the award and thanked his terrible childhood and the Academy in that order. He then went on to say, "I needed this job more than it needed me. I stand here before you a better man because of it." Personal life. Now, we've already seen how some of Robert Downey Jr.'s personal life has been beset with difficulty, but amongst all of the tabloid stories and stints in jail and rehab, there is a whole lot else to the man as well. Here's a fun fact. His cousin is Harry Connick Jr., and he was childhood buddies with Moby, the electronic musician guy. He has naturally been linked to several women in his time. When he was 18 years old, he met actress Sarah Jessica Parker, and the pair lived together for over 8 years, ultimately ending their relationship in 1991 because of his addiction issues. Then in 1992, after knowing one another for just 42 days, Robert Downey Jr. and Deborah Falconer, an actress and singer, got married. They had a son in 93, but then again, the deadly combo of addiction and jail time would end that relationship in 2001, and their divorce was finalized in 2004. Then in 2003, he met his wife Susan. Although he pursued her for quite a while, she was not initially interested. They eventually did get together, and in 2005 they were married. They have 2 children together. He has a tattoo which is apparently for his wife that reads Susie Q, and they're also the owners of the movie production company Team Downey. After so many years of struggling with sobriety, Robert has apparently been sober since 2003 and is heavily involved in various martial arts practices, yoga, meditation, and therapy, all in order to keep himself on the right side of everything. While he was filming Dolittle, he became a vegan and has become extremely conscious about the climate crisis, and this has led him to launching an organization called Footprint Coalition to promote technologies that work to protect the environment and reduce emissions in many industries. He's since downgraded his veganism to pescatarianism and because of troubles with his vitamin levels. Whichever way you view the storied life of Robert Downey Jr., it seems that he's been one of Hollywood's longest-lasting stars, and despite his hard times, he's risen to the top of his field, and now, with his Oscar win, he's finally received that recognition from the industry. What do you think of the life of Robert Downey Jr.? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe because the next Life Behind the Camera is coming out soon. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.